In our last class, we introduced cloud computing. We explored what the cloud actually is, why it's such a transformative technology, and we talked about the service models SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS. We also briefly touched on deployment models, public, private, hybrid, and I even mentioned community cloud, but we didn't go very deep there. Today we are going to slow down and take a detailed look at these models, especially how they are being used right now in 2025. So think of this as a continuation. We are moving from what cloud services are, software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service, to how those services are delivered and deployed. That's the deployment model side of the story. By the end of this lecture, you should understand not only these definitions, but also the trade offs, use cases, and the latest industry trends. I'll give you some if then decision rules that you can use to figure out which model makes sense in different scenarios. Let's make sure that we are clear on the distinction. Service models, software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, are about what kind of service the provider is giving you. For example, SaaS is a ready to use software like Gmail or Microsoft 365, like the one that I'm using right now. PaaS is a platform like Heroku or Google App Engine where developers build apps. IaaS is infrastructure as a service like AWS, EC2, Azure, where you get raw computing and resources. Deployment models are about where these services live and who controls them. That's where we are going to go. Public, private, hybrid, and community clouds. So you can think of it in this way: service clouds define the layer of abstraction, deployment models define the environment. For example, Gmail is a SaaS delivered on a public cloud. Your university might be running Canvas or Moodle or Blackboard as SaaS on a private cloud. And an enterprise might mix them, like Salesforce mixes SaaS in public but HR software on a private cloud. This distinction is important because deployment affects cost, security, scalability, and governance. Public cloud. Okay, let's start with the most common one. A public cloud is owned and operated by a third party provider like Amazon Web Services, Azure, or Google Cloud. Resources are shared across multiple customers, also called as multi tenancy. How does this work? The provider has massive data centers spread across the globe. Customers like you and me just log in through a web console, API, or command line. We don't care where hardware is physically situated, we just know it works. It's based on pay as you go model. You pay for what you consume, compute, storage, database, machine learning APIs are all billed by the hour or even by the second, depending on what service you're using. In the past, only big enterprises could afford computers or global infrastructure. Today, even a student or a startup can rent the same power by swiping a credit card. Let's talk about pros, cons, and current realities. Pros are low upfront costs, you don't have to buy the servers, and high scalability. So, for example, Netflix streams to hundreds of millions of people thanks to AWS. Maintenance is handled by the provider. You focus on the app and not on the hardware. Cons are you have less control, you don't choose the physical server, and you're limited to the provider's ecosystem. Data sovereignty issues. Where is your data actually stored? This matters for compliance. At a small scale, it's cheap. At a large scale, bills explode. The trends in 2025 are for the public cloud, according to TechRadar and many companies are finding that AI workloads are straining public cloud economies. So renting GPUs for training large models on AWS or Azure is extremely expensive and availability is limited. Some are considering alternative like on-premise clusters, so moving everything to their on-premise location. TechRadar reports that 80% of these companies are planning to move some workloads back from public cloud to private data centers. That's the opposite of 2010's trend where everyone said cloud first. So here is if then. If you need to scale rapidly or have agility and global reach, then public cloud is the obvious choice. But if your workload is predictable, compliance heavy, or extremely resource intensive, like AI, then you might want to look at other models. Private cloud. Now let's look at the private cloud. A private cloud is dedicated to a single organization. That means no sharing of infrastructure with outsiders. It can be built on your premise, on your location, or it can be hosted by a third party but isolated just for you. The mechanics are similar. It still uses virtualization, containerization, and orchestration software like VMware vSphere, OpenStack, or Azure Stack. It still delivers elasticity and self service. But the key difference is you own or fully lease the environment. It's like building your own mini AWS just for your company. Private cloud, pros and cons and trends. Pros is you have maximum control, you decide the hardware, software, and the policies. Security and compliance, perfect for industries like banking, healthcare, or government. Predictability, performance, so you're not sharing the cloud with anyone, so there are no noisy neighbors. Cons, it is very expensive. You pay for all the hardware and the staff. Less scalable, you can only scale as fast as you can buy the equipment. Trends in 2025 are AI is a huge driver in private cloud. Organizations want a guaranteed GPU access and don't want to rely on AWS supply chain. Enterprises are using modern private clouds with Kubernetes and automation to get to the same agility as public cloud but keep control of it. If then, situation here, if compliance and sovereignty are your top concerns, or you're in the finance, or healthcare, or government, then private cloud is likely the right approach. If cost efficiency and global scale are more important, then we should stick with public cloud. Moving on to hybrid cloud. Now, what if you want the best of both worlds? Enter hybrid cloud. A hybrid cloud is when you integrate private and public clouds into one single architecture. The systems are connected often by VPNs, APIs, or orchestration software. For example, a hospital keeps patient records in a private cloud for compliance but runs its research simulations on a public cloud cluster. Hybrid is about workload placement, running each workload in the environment that makes more sense. Pros and cons. So, pros are you have a lot of flexibility, you put sensitive stuff in private and scalable stuff in public. As simple as that. Cost optimization could be done by segregating or moving things in these two different sections. Use expensive private cloud for compliance and cheap public cloud for everything else. Business continuity. If one side fails, workloads can shift. Cons are complexity, managing hybrid is tough. Integrating network, monitoring, and security all get harder. Latency and data transfer are expensive, so moving data back and forth is not free. Trends in 2025 for hybrid clouds. Over 80% of organizations use hybrid strategies. It is the dominant model. Hybrid is especially useful for AI training and inference, where you keep sensitive datasets private but use public cloud for bursts of compute. The new challenge is orchestration. Tools powered by AI are emerging to automatically place workloads across clouds. If then situation, if you want flexibility and need to balance control with scale, then hybrid is the sweet spot. If you lack strong IT skills or integration capabilities, hybrid may create more headaches than benefits. Multi cloud means using multiple providers, not necessarily with deep integration. Maybe you run databases on AWS, AI workloads on Google Cloud, and Microsoft 365 SaaS on Azure. Why do this? Avoid vendor lock in. So use the best of the breed services. For example, Google AI tools are best in class, and they still are. While AWS has the strongest infrastructure option, price flexibility. If one provider raises prices, you can shift workloads from shifting from AWS to Azure or GCP. Trends in 2025. 89% of enterprises use multi cloud, but the risk is fragmentation. Each cloud has its own tools, billing, and policies. Managing governance across multiple clouds is a huge challenge. If you're worried about lock in or you need the best tools from each provider, then multi cloud is your friend. If you are a small company with complex needs, multi cloud might just overcomplicate things for you. Community cloud. Let's not forget community cloud. A community cloud is shared by multiple organizations with similar needs. For example, several universities might build a shared research cloud, or a group of hospitals could build a joint cloud to share healthcare data under strict compliance rules. It's like a private cloud but with multiple organizations pooling their resources. Not as common as other models, but still relevant in certain sectors. Key trends in 2025: AI is helping to manage the cloud. Providers are using AI to decide when to run apps and when to lower the cost. An example is system moves the workload from Azure to AWS if it's cheaper. Computing at the edge. Instead of sending all of the data to faraway data centers, some data is processed closer to where it is created, like a factory machine, a smart car, or your phone. It helps with faster response time and less internet traffic. Cloud repatriation. Some companies are moving workloads back out of public cloud to private or on premise systems. Why? Because the cost and control and performance are a priority, and AI is making a big role in moving everything back to on prem. Not everything, to a certain extent, the things are moving back to on prem. Security. So, cloud providers now use AI to detect threats faster and block attacks. Sustainability and green IT. Companies want eco friendly cloud infrastructure. Providers are now advertising how energy efficient they are and how much low carbon data centers that they are building. So let's ground with certain examples. Netflix runs entirely on AWS public cloud, perfect for scalability. Bank of America strongly invested in private cloud for compliance. Healthcare systems using hybrid cloud to keep the records private but research in public. Universities sometimes use community clouds for research and collaborations. TechRadar reports that 79% of enterprises are shifting AI workloads back from public cloud to private because of the cost and predictability. IT Pro shows security partnerships like Google Cloud and Trend Micro to defend hybrid setups. These are examples how deployment models are not just theoretical, they are real strategic business decisions. To recap in practical terms, if cost and agility are your top priorities, the answer is public cloud. If compliance, sovereignty, and security are your top priorities, then go for private cloud. If flexibility and workload placement is an important matter, then hybrid cloud is your answer. If vendor lock in is a concern or you need best of breed, multi cloud. If organizations with shared needs want to pool resources, we have community cloud. Notice that it's not about which model is best overall, it's about which model is best for your situation. Closing summary: cloud computing is not static, it's evolving rapidly. 10 years ago, everything was about public cloud and cloud first strategies. Today, in 2025, it's about hybrid, multi cloud, AI orchestration, and even pulling workloads back out from the cloud. Public, private, hybrid, and community have their place, and often organizations end up using more than one. The most important thing you can take away is the deployment model decisions are not just technical, they are strategic. They involve cost, compliance, sovereignty, sustainability, and future proofing. Thank you. See you again on Wednesday.